Hi everyone. Welcome to By Accident or Design with Visme and Neal Schaffer. This is a live stream series that's snackable and celebrates honest moments in business, design, marketing, from mistakes to wins and all the whoa moments in between. I am Chelsea Hensley. I'm the social media strategist here at Visme. And today we have Neal Schaffer. Neal is an author. He just wrote the book, The Age of Influence. He's a fractional CMO, digital content influencer, keynote speaker, everything in between. We are so lucky to have him here today. So Neal, how are you?
I'm doing awesome, thanks, and thank you. The honor to be here today is all mine, so thank you.
Awesome. So we'll jump right into it. So when I was preparing questions for this series and kind of getting to know your work, one of the most topical things right now in this industry is AI, right? How these tools can either is it going to improve marketing and business? Is there some negative sides to it? So I'm curious your take on the influencer side. How can you see AI, and influencer marketing involved in the rise of AI content?
Well, I just want to say, while you were saying there's been one thing that's been talked about, and I assume you were going to say Chat GPT, but obviously it's the same topic. And it's funny because I find myself, when I wrote The Age of Influence and published it in March of 2020, and then I appeared on a Sirius XM radio interview, and Black Lives Matter had just happened. And the announcer said, "Hey, you may not be prepared for this, but we need to talk about this. This is something that brands need to respond to in any way." And immediately you're sort of thrust in the spotlight. I had no time to prepare. I hadn't really thought about it. It was really sort of on the spot. But sometimes that's what happens in life. That's what happens in business,
Yeah.
right? And I have a feeling that what we're seeing now is a similar moment. I'm actually speaking on Thursday, 2 days from now, for an American Marketing Association event where I'm keynoting like the three, big social media trends for the year. And I could not talk about trends in the year without talking about ChatGPT, even though it's not one of the three trends that I plan to talk about. So as I was preparing, and I'm still preparing my notes, it is in there solidly. And just over the last 2 days, Chelsea, well, this is January 23rd, Monday, and then just over the weekend, just the headlines that I have in this slide. The AI expert at Meta has some harsh criticism of ChatGPT. Scores of Stanford students use ChatGPT on final exams. Google's founders return, how ChatGPT is changing search. Will ChatGPT artificial intelligence replace financial professionals anytime soon? How ChatGPT could change commercial real estate, and on and on and on and on, right?
Mhm.
So I actually, in The Age of Influence, I actually have a chapter, the final chapter, on how AI is going to affect influencer marketing, because it already is. In fact, AI and its earlier offshoot, machine learning, has already been used in software tools for many years. So it's really nothing new. It's just the evolution and the speed of that evolution. So in the presentation, I actually give an example of a company that has an AI tool. And basically, it asks its own, in order to do a press release for its new release of its AI tool, which incorporates ChatGPT, it basically says, "Hey, generate a few book titles about a cat who likes to paint." And it gets two responses: Paint by Pause, A Cat's Journey Through Art; A Perfect Paintings, A Feline Artist's Guide.
Dang.
And you just get the sense that it's really, and I'm sure those answers came within seconds. So my whole message is, you have to understand it. And my message in the presentation is, you have to start experimenting with it. You have to
Mhm.
understand what it is, how you might want to use it. I am a big fan of, for AI specifically, a tool called Jasper.ai, which incorporates ChatGPT. And ChatGPT was really made for research purposes. Jasper is really made for commercial, for marketing purposes. I've been using it for several months, and I highly recommend you take a look and begin to understand what you can do with it. And it obviously, it goes beyond influencer marketing. It goes into marketing. It goes into life in general. But I guess the best way to think about it is, we do these Google searches looking for answers. What if you could do a Google search and it returns a paragraph, and it's already sort of sourced what it thinks is the best information? And I think that's really the best way to look at it. Google's already showing these snippets. You ask a question, it gives you an answer, which AI is doing. It's just doing it with more depth, more research. So yeah, there are ways in which I'm already using it in my business. I'm not writing blog posts purely from AI, which I would never recommend you do. I think CNET is starting to write articles purely using AI. The problem with AI is it's only based on whatever's out there. It will scour the internet. It will try to come up with a solution. But if it's something that's not out there, it won't have a solution. So AI does not have brand voice, for instance. So
Yeah.
you begin to sort of compartmentalize. Well, for brainstorming, AI may be a quick way to do research, for instance. And I think that's a great use case scenario. If I was writing a technical manual for my own product based on best practices in the industry, where some of the information is going to be very general industry-based information versus something that's very specific to my product or service, so I think technical writing, some of that, and I mean, I'm not a technical writer, but I do think that writers are going to learn to use AI to become a better writer as well.
Yeah.
I think that's how far we're going to go. So
I think you hit the nail on the head by saying, it's here. We just have to learn how we can utilize it efficiently, but also it doesn't have a brand voice. And that's where your professional copywriters and your marketers, your designers come in to enhance the foundation that AI is providing. So I think that's a really interesting perspective, definitely. And I'm excited to see where it leads. It's very polarizing right now in our industry, right? Especially with tech layoffs and so. But yeah, I'm looking forward. I wonder if you're looking forward to seeing the progression, as much as I am. So
I am, and if I may share my screen really quickly, I can actually show you. I'm able to do that, right?
I don't know.
I've actually used this tool before. I'm just going to do this really quick
Okay,
because
go
this
for it.
is actually the slide from the presentation I'm
Oh yeah.
working on. And for those of you that are not familiar with these tools, so I recommend. I'm not like I don't make any money by mentioning Jasper.ai. I have no relationship with the company. I just think they have the best product. But these are the types of things like, hey, let's write an ADA framework, blog post outline, paragraph generator. Let's take content, improve it. Blog post conclusion paragraph, blog post intro paragraph, and on and on and on. And you begin to see the use case scenarios. And in fact, on top here, you have this whole menu of things. So definitely, check it out, try it out. You need to come up with your own conclusion about it, but it's going to continue to develop. And we're going to see more use case scenarios. And Microsoft is investing in OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT. Google's going to come out with something. So it's here, it's now. So start that journey that I think every company is going to have. And yeah, I'm excited about it too. I think that with every iteration of technology, we get more efficient. We also, human beings, move on to more strategic jobs where we get to use more of our brain power and our creativity versus more mundane tasks. So, and I think it's this circle of iteration, and this is the latest iteration. So I would say get on top of it and really harness it and understand it, because at the end of the day, AI works based on how humans program AI to work. So we are still on top. You need to make sure you're on top.
Absolutely. And with you mentioning, your keynote speech on this on Thursday, it kind of leads me in to another question is, you're a thought leader, and a CMO, all these things wrapped in one, like, I introduced you with, but why do you think, or why don't we see more CEOs or CEOs blend into the influencer side? It seems to me like CEOs, CMOs really kind of shy away from having that first person influencing thought leadership role, especially when you look at social platforms like LinkedIn. Do you see that that's a pattern?
Yeah, I think in general, executives have always, since the inception of social media, have always had this little fear about social media. So I think the higher you go in an organization, the more you realize that you're also legally responsible for your position. And there definitely are potential legal issues, right, that average people don't have to worry about, but executives do have to worry about. And what if they said something, on social media that affected the stock price? I mean, I don't know, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I'm sure there are reasons why they are a little bit more conservative on social media. Obviously, when we think about it, I talk about influencer marketing. I talk about employee influencers. So we've had this topic of employee advocacy for some time, and I talk about, well,
Mhm.
we can't expect employees to do something. Let's work with the employees that are already out there on social, and there's more of them today. And I would show a pyramid in my presentations on this, where the person that should be the biggest influencer of any company is the CEO, right?
Mm.
They have the most skin in the game. They probably get the biggest bonus, but they also really represent the company. But on the other hand, the employee influencers that actually are the most trusted are the ones at the bottom, the ones with no title, right? The ones that just authentically show up.
Boots on
Uh,
the ground is what I like to call them.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's interesting. So there's some in the industry that go, oh, we need to get our executives on social media. I think if the executives are on social media, it makes it much easier for everybody else in the company to get on board if it's a strategic initiative. But if not, it's not 100%. It really does come down to a personal decision. And I think if it's like an Elon Musk who's always been on Twitter personally, they're going to be out there. If not, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I think it also depends on if your executive team is naturally communicative and has a personality and a vibe, as us millennials like to call it. But yeah, and don't force it if it doesn't feel natural. That's my opinion, at least.
Exactly. There are other ways of utilizing your executive team for your marketing if they're not, on social media. I know there are many executives who work with internal communications teams who end up, writing blog posts for them that have the CEO name on it. Obviously, they could help writing social media posts as well, which the executive could vet before it goes out, so it's all controlled. So there are various ways in which it can happen. But yeah, it's funny, with social media becoming so pervasive, you would think that at some point, almost every executive would naturally be on social media, and they might be. But the question is, are they going to use it professionally or not? And the verdict is still out on that.
Yeah. I'm a fan of it. I like to see the personality behind a brand. So definitely one strategy. That's one strategy you can take. Another thing I want to talk about is in your book, Age of Influence. Of course, you outlined the power that influencers can have to drive brand growth and awareness. So I'm curious, what's one unlikely strategy that you see working in 2023 and you're not allowed to say AI?
Well, so I think what's happened, the strategies that I wrote in the book, and I wrote the book before really the emergence of TikTok. So I don't
Mm.
think TikTok has changed the game in any way. I think it's the same principles can be applied to working with influencers. I think I've seen um, a unique use case scenario recently working with some B2B business owners. So influencer marketing, as we know, can be used for B2B as well. But it's taking the concept of affiliate marketing and it's really applying it to subject matter experts or even to salespeople. Really, are there people out there that will help us sell our product that we can consider quasi affiliates? And it is possible because there are more what we call social sellers. There are more salespeople, small business owners that are out there on social media, that are on LinkedIn, that understand how to use it from a sales perspective. So we get to this place where we begin to look, if influencer marketing can drive our marketing, can we use the same concepts to help drive our sales?
Hmm.
And I think this is it's the first time, I'd ever heard someone talk about it. But I think it's a unique way that, once again, we're looking at salespeople that you would consider nano influencers. They're active on LinkedIn. They are contracted. They're not, full-time corporate at a company. And they are very active. They have a following. They probably have creator mode turned on. Maybe they have, 1,000, 2,000 followers, but they're people that they're salespeople that have a voice that can influence audiences, influence customers, similar to how other subject matter experts who blog and what have you can do that as well. So normally when I think of an influencer, it's a content creator. They're publishing
Hmm.
content somewhere in the internet. When we get to salespeople, you're not going to find many bloggers per se, but they are still out there on social media building networks, being active. So it is this convergence of sort of social selling, affiliate marketing, sales. I think very LinkedIn centric. That might be an interesting, unlikely but interesting strategy for other B2Bs that are listening to check out.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I think real quick to call out the people who maybe have on creator mode, but they're not an influencer. To me, it also feels a little bit more authentic, and you can trust that word of mouth recommendation versus someone who's a little bit too polished, a little bit too influencery. So it could actually be more effective if your people aren't so polished.
Yeah, we know the raw, the authentic. I think this is a byproduct of COVID, but before COVID, it was all about taking that perfect Instagrammable photo that did not represent reality. And then, just take a look at TikTok. And I mean, there are people like Zach King who show, magical things. But outside of people like that, it's raw, it's authentic. I mean, it's in your face, literally. People are not hiding. They're not using these, hyper filters. It's not in the perfect lighting, what have you. And that's what we crave today. So absolutely. And that's where I think, another thing that's happened since COVID, getting back to influencer marketing, is really the predominance of nano and micro influencers, where before that it was really about celebrities.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I actually, in this presentation I'm giving about these trends, let me, since I'm working on, I think this is going to be a really interesting one. Let me try to pull on the screen real quick. Oh, not this one. Let me get rid of that. Since we were on the topic, I'm going to find this really quickly. Okay. So, and this is just really good timing since this is really top of mind. I'm literally been working on this last few days. Okay. So hopefully, Chelsea, you can see this, right?
There we go. Yep.
Yeah. So it's really, a lot of social media programs were built when there were 1.52, maybe 2.5 billion social media users. It is completely different today, right? There are 2 billion more people that weren't on a few years ago. And when I talk about the trends, we need to think that social media is a completely different beast today than probably when we created our programs. But unfortunately, most marketing, most social media programs really haven't changed. And this is what I'm trying to fight against, and what I'm encouraging the people in the audience to fight against as well. So, back in 2018, these were the big four. Now, LinkedIn is also up here as well. They do not give monthly active user numbers, which is why you don't see them here. Pinterest would have been around here. Tumblr, Snapchat, maybe somewhere in between Instagram and Twitter. But if we look at that today, right, you see this emergence of TikTok, obviously. We see this amazing growth in these other platforms. We see Twitter really hasn't grown. So we begin to see that it's just very, very different. And if we dig further, right? Oh, well, I won't go into that. But if we dig further into behind those numbers, it's short form video that is really the engine of social media today. And I think this is an area that, there's a security concern with TikTok. Well, what about Reels? What about YouTube Shorts? Just the amount of people that is consuming this is just completely transformed social media today. So let me try to find my window again.
It's a completely different landscape. I mean, even in terms of social media, 1 year is different than the next. You absolutely cannot compare even 2023 to 2020. I mean, in light of the pandemic and everything. So social media is so incredibly fluid and ever changing.
Yeah, and I think that what is an unlikely trend, and in influence marketing, and you can't say AI, and I think that sometimes the answer is literally looking at us in the face, but somehow we're not moving in that direction. And I think that short form video is one where everybody's talking about it. Very few businesses are actually doing anything about it. So that's one of the things. And before we were talking, I thought one of the original questions was, "Hey, Neal, what's one of the biggest mistakes you made?" And I think not going heavier into video earlier on in my career, definitely there would have been a heck of a lot of advantages if I'd done that. So I don't say that about, oh, I wish I'd started a podcast earlier. I don't think many people say that. Some might, but definitely video, or I might, I wish I'd started blogging earlier. Well, blogging is, you just start writing. It's not that hard. But the video, I think sometimes we overthink it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this perfect thing. Um, an app like TikTok, whether you use it or not, you could use it just as a video editing app without publishing on it. But as a video editing app, it's really awesome once you figure it out. So that is something that I hope inspires people that are listening. That, if we look at all the different channels in marketing, where the disruption is outside of AI and just content writing and content creation really is in social media, and it continues to be disruptive. And there are opportunities for everyone listening. I mean, this is an example of doing a live stream. How many businesses are doing live streams? Do you know that, on Amazon, I know this is a very, very different industry. On Amazon, you can have a store. People can follow your store. If people follow your store and you do an Amazon live stream, and I might be mistaken, but my understanding is they're going to get a notification if they have their Amazon app on that the brand they follow is starting a live stream, which would probably not happen anywhere else. So there are tremendous opportunities for companies that really get on board video in all of its different formats, in all of its different channels.
Absolutely. Yes. And again, these live streams, I don't know how many other companies are doing it, but Visme sure is. And I can't let you go without asking you a design question because, Visme, we are a content design platform. So my question is how, or what's I know my answer, but what place, object, or like element you've seen out in the wild, a piece of design has been the most memorable to you? For me, I always just think of the Nike swoosh. It's just so clean. And I think a lot of the murals that they do on buildings with like a little hint of guerrilla marketing, that piece of design to me just always comes up first. So I'm curious what yours is.
That's a really great question. I go to Japan a lot on business, and I love some of the modern architecture that I see there. Um, I guess the way I would describe it is clean, a lot of glass.
Mm,
You feel like you are in a different environment. You sort of feel like you're in a movie walking around some of these buildings. And I know in Japan, and probably in other countries as well, they're also trying to make a sustainable type of building by putting green live plants on the exterior of skyscrapers.
yeah.
For
Singapore does that very well.
Yeah, so that also just will that reduce carbon emissions over time? Probably it has a minimal impact, but does it make you think about the issue whenever you see the building? Absolutely. So architecture that makes me think uh, is an example of just something utilitarian that somebody thought a little bit more about how they can portray issues, send messages. To me is the best design, and that can be in any product or any website. There are many different ways of using that concept, but to me, that's awesome design.
I love that. That's super refreshing and out of the box. I've never been to Japan. I've been a few other places, but you just made me even want to go even more. But before we wrap up here, I just want to kind of give you 30-second plug or something. Where can people find you? Do you have anything coming up that you would like to mention for people tuning in?
Sure. Well, my name is Neal Schaffer. I am the real Neal. So as long as you spell my name correctly, you can find me anywhere on social media. My website, I have a podcast, Your Digital Marketing Coach with Neal Schaffer. My last book was published in 2020, so I am working on my next book. Not there yet. I am also working on creating more digital courses. I recently published one on the Maven platform for those that might be familiar on how to create an influencer marketing strategy in 2 weeks. And now I am working on a course on how I doubled my organic search traffic in 2022 and really creating some educational material around content marketing, blogging, SEO, but looking at it in a refreshing light. So if you want more information or just want to follow my journey, just go over to nealschaffer.com. There's contact forms there, and then I will keep you updated.
Awesome. Exciting stuff. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining this week's episode of By Accident or Design. This recording will be saved on Visme's Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So you can rewatch it at any time, maybe with a cup of morning coffee on a Saturday. I don't know if anyone else does that, but that's one of my, yeah, exactly. Cheers to that. All right. Well, we'll catch you on our next live stream, and have a good day, Neal. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.